Switch the lies, cut the feed. You and me, that's the creed. Through the static, through the roar. If they shut one door, we kick five more. Hey, we do not kneel, we stand for each other. Hey, hands on the shoulders, pulling one from the gutter. You are not your fear, you are not their blame. Side by side in the fire, we rewrite that name. We do not kneel when the guilt gets loud. We hold that line, yeah, we hold that ground. If you fall, then I fall, that's the deal. I got your back. We do not kneel. On the brim of the bottomless chasm, iron on stone. She's counting the chases of chains. Ivory hair like a halo of ash. Red eyes reading every name in the flames. Officers coat all medals of ruin. Rank sewn in scars on her porcelain skin. Keyring clatters like a funeral chorus. She smiles when the howling begins. Yeah! She holds the keys of the Baphomet lady. Warden of the pit where the dark things scream. She locks the jaws of the nightmares waiting, turning every curse into rust and steam. She keeps the keys while the world stays sleeping, laughing as the horrors pound and pray. Keeper of Tartarus, merciless jailer. She loves to hear the monsters beg to stay. Clipboard of souls, she's checking them in one by one through the furnace gate. Every abomination signed and numbered, filed in a cell with a tailored fate. She twists the lock, their essence shatters, ink of their terror staining the floor. She drinks their rage like a black communion, then tosses the cup at the cell block door. Hey, she holds the keys of the Baphomet lady. Warden of the pit where the dark things scream. She locks the jaws of the nightmares waiting, turning every curse into rust and steam. She keeps the keys while the world stays sleeping, laughing as the horrors pound and pray. Keeper of Tartarus, merciless jailer. She loves to hear the monsters beg to stay. Who cages the cage makers? Who hunts the hunters down? Hell! In the blood-red officers stare with a crown of cold iron, no crown of dawn. Line up, filth, she crews to the shadows. Confess what you planned for their fragile down. They shrink of endings, oceans of bodies. She clicks her tongue, not on my watch, and drags them on. She holds the keys of the Baphomet lady. Warning of the pit where the dark things scream. She locks the jaws of the nightmares waiting, turning every curse into rust and steam. She keeps the keys while the world stays sleeping, laughing as the horrors pound and pray. Keeper of Tartarus, merciless jailer. She loves to hear the monsters beg to stay. Key by key, she turns back doomsday.
Well, hello, everybody. We will go ahead and get started right now because there is no time like the present to go ahead and get started. Yeah, I've been a little under the weather, which is kind of par for the course when it comes to someone like myself. But yeah, I need to get in my streaming hours because I will probably be gone this weekend for a family commitment despite my best efforts. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and switch over now. How are you guys doing? Hopefully everybody is doing well. Everyone has a good day, good night, good evening, whatever time it is for you. We'll be reacting to some community videos today, but also more importantly, like only one or two music videos. I have a lot more, believe me, I have a ton that I need to get through. But there's only 2 or 3 of them that I really wanted to get through today, and then I have some more kind of like current events and videos in regards to stuff from the community. That's all I'll say. I don't want to say necessarily community outrage, but we will go from there. So yeah. Hello, Mad Hat. I see you over there on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. I should be live on Twitch, YouTube, and Kick. I would also be live on Rumble right now, but for whatever reason, Rumble is not playing nicely, and I don't know what the issue is. I'm putting in all the right things, but it's just not streaming correctly, which is weird because originally I thought that YouTube was the one that was going to give me problems, or Kick, but no, Rumble's the one that's giving me problems. So I am currently looking for some kind of plugins or maybe a supplementary feed extension for OBS that I can use to monitor Rumble the Rumble streams easier. So that way I can hopefully, you know, monitor things on Rumble. But until I can monitor things on Rumble safely, I am not going to be streaming on Rumble. I still have my account. I will still support people on Rumble, as well as give other people my content there as well. So like my long form I might start uploading to Rumble because Rumble supports that. And hello, Palagara. hello. I have seen some of your music floating around. I've really liked it. I enjoyed what I saw yesterday with, I believe it was Off Ted. Yeah, she showcased some of your music, and I think actually Matt Hatter showed me some of your music as well too. So pretty cool stuff. Like I said, I'm only going to be responding to like 1 or 2 of the AI music videos today because there's a lot of stuff I actually want to get through. I don't have a lot of time tonight. I never have a lot of time. Total transparency, guys. I never have a lot of time because I work almost full time, plus the work I do behind the scenes with agency stuff. So yeah, it's annoying. But I actually really do love working for Nocturne, the agency that we founded, that we started together for a number of reasons. But I like helping people grow. I know that I spoke to Ofted, I think last night on stream, and I was like, yeah, I'll be more than happy to help you get some of your stream stuff more sorted because it's actually where I shine. So that will definitely be something I'll be doing. I know I was in the middle of working. I think it was on my lunch hour actually when I was watching her last night, to my knowledge. So yeah, man, you're doing really good. I really enjoyed your stuff. I really enjoyed what I saw. So good stuff. I'll give you a proper reaction soon. Like I was just saying a little bit earlier, I will be gone this weekend for a family commitment. So I'm going to try to get through all of my streaming hours. See, today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe in those 3 days. And then I should, if everything goes good, maybe have Friday off. But if not, oh well, that's just life, right? Anyways, gonna go ahead and jump into it. Ta-da! This is Grumpy Whiskers, A Game of Smog and Shadows, the official music video, a Celtic steampunk fantasy. I do have a small cameo in it. Total transparency, I will say that it is a villainous role, but I was asked ahead of time if that was okay, and I was like, yeah, that's more than fine with me. I don't mind being a villain as long as it's a villain of I'll say miscommunication, and I think the way it's presented here it is very well. A good way of what I would describe as a villain of miscommunication is somebody like it's gonna sound really bad, but somebody like Knuckles from like the original Sonic 3, where originally everyone thought he was a bad guy because he would beat up on Sonic, and then it's like, oh no, he was just misinformed, type of thing. If it reacted to this, it's impeccable. Oh yeah. I'm sure it is. Grumpy Whiskers is a good friend of mine, and he does fantastic work. So, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. First and foremost, I will let the whole thing play out pretty much uninterrupted. If something really does catch my eye, I'll ooh and ah and maybe make a little comment, but I try to refrain from commenting too heavily until the very end. So, without further ado, and also, guys, you're free to let me know if the audio levels are off, because I need help with that. All right, let's get into it.
In the smoke-choked spires, where the steam never dries, a new face arrives with a spark in her eyes. She stepped from the dirigible into streets of brass and rust, where gears turn on prayers and the ether starts to rust. Tinkering her gold with blueprints in her hand, shadows coil tighter than an hourglass sand. The city whispers secrets through pipes of rusted bone, where magic leaks like oil and nightmares claim their throne. The wheels keep on turning, the valves start to scream. Something ancient is waking from its mechanical dream. Beware, young blood in the city of steam, where magic meets shadows, seal and machine. Be wary the nightmares that spawn from the greed that festers and swells in the souls that exceed. One spark too bright, one deal sealed in blood, and the brass veil tears wide. Welcome to the flood. Shadows are calling from the smog and the gear. Run if you can, or conquer your fear. She followed the flicker of a lantern held tight, past figures in velvet who gave her a fright. A shadow with tail that danced through the haze, a cutlass that sang in the fog-shrouded maze. A rogue in the rafters, a noble ember
Hello, Rhino.
each one a thread in the tapestry of the game. The machine started humming a tune she once knew, but now it was twisted, and the tune followed you. Beware, young blood in the city of steam, where magic meets shadows, steel and machine. Be wary the nightmares that spawn from the greed that festers and swells in the souls that
And of course, the Easter egg at the end. We all know what this leads into.
Need a ride?
That was awesome. That's awesome. All right, now I'm going to go back. I will say, for the sake of argument, I hadn't seen it, but I did know that I played a villainous role in it. Grumpy had asked me ahead of time if that was fine. I was like, yeah, I don't mind. As long as it's nothing like malicious, because ultimately I consider everybody a friend. And he kind of told me more or less what he had planned, and I was like, I kind of like that. Kind of like a mentor or mastermind type character that's yes, they're antagonistic, at least initially, towards the main character, in this case, Leaflet. But ultimately, they're trying to like train her or to refine her to become a stronger individual. And I was like, I can respect that. I kind of like the way that's personified. So now we're going to go through it a little bit. And if anything stood out to me, I'll try to stop and comment and give my 2 cents. Which right away, I'll just say visually, I love the visuals very much so. Have you seen Nightway's, Octo, and Don Halo's collaboration video? It's awesome. No, not yet. If you guys do have anything you'd like me to react to, you guys are welcome to drop it on the Discord. We have an area which is, let me bring it up real quick. Ba-da-ba-da-bum. There we go. Videos to react to on stream, which aren't just in regards to myself, they're in regards to like all the talents that we have with Nocturne. So, you know, that's where we got them there. The chat's just enjoying the games. Yeah, exactly. That's what I liked about it. I was like, I don't see it as the characters necessarily evil. I mean, even though, like, yeah, ultimately it was a villain in this case, but it's more of like a necessary evil, because it's like if you don't have something to test you and kind of like push you to that limit, it can be very like how can somebody grow? In this case, you know, thematically, you see Leaflet as a character grow, which I'll also just say completely unrelated. Grumpy, you need to turn this into like a D&D setting or something, or maybe like a Lyrian Angel Sword setting or supplement, because there's a lot of thought and detail that went in here, and I dig it. And of course, right away, anything with violin really gets me going. I really enjoy violin. There's a band called the Crew Shadows, which they're kind of like, I guess, a gothic kind of like industrial band, and their main instrument is the violin. I wish I could play some of their music because I really dig their vibe and aesthetic. But anything with a violin, really like it.
In the smoke-choked spires, where the steam never dries.
Got a link for the band. If you just let me see if I can type it real quick. They're like an older band. I'm gonna be honest. They're nothing like new, nothing current, but they are a band called Crew Shadows or Crux Shadows, depending. Let me get that up right here. There we go. If you just Google for them, they're probably gonna pop up right away, or on YouTube as well. But yeah, they're called the Crew Shadows. Anyways, I digress.
Rise. A new face arrives.
I really like, obviously, the steampunk aesthetic, the Victorian aesthetic. It reminds me of a game called Victoriana, which is a tabletop setting that I really like. And this is giving me big Victoriana vibes, which is a good thing. I absolutely love like steampunk. Have you guys ever played Arcanum? Like a really old game? Loved Arcanum too. Big vibes of that.
With a spark in her eyes.
I love to see Keen, my boy Keen. He's actually taking some time off, if I understood his post correctly. So hopefully he'll come back rejuvenated, ready to make more content. I like the way that Sky is kind of like personified here. I mean, not just, you know, aesthetically, because it looks cool and it kind of fits his aesthetic, but if I have any complaint at all, it's I don't think, and you guys are free to correct me, we didn't see Sky do anything else in this video. And you know what I think would have really been a nice twist, maybe this is something they're working towards later, is if Sky would have been the opposite person that I was playing chess against, you know, kind of like the good mastermind versus the, not necessarily evil mastermind, but the antagonist mastermind. I thought that would have been a fantastic uh, just like play on it, for no other reason than the fact that generally when people play chess, I mean, this is drawing a lot from like Vampire the Masquerade lore, which I've been reading those books a lot because I'm going to be running a game next month. Anyways, generally you have two elder or veteran characters that know each other very well and respect each other, but more importantly, they play a giant game of chess, so to speak, using people as pawns or pieces on the board. And I don't know, that would have been an interesting twist. I mean, I'm not saying by any means I'm at the same levels of Sky. Not at all, not at all. But it would have been a nice twist to see him utilized somewhere else, because I think this design just looks fantastic. Of course, Night Owl, I believe. Love to see Night Owl. He needs a jelly hat though, right, Chad? He needs a jelly hat right there.
She stepped from the dirigible.
Kudos on using a dirigible in a lyric and making it not seem out of place. So that was impressive to me.
Into streets of brass and rust, where gears turn on
Banana Juju and Powder, which actually they look really good in this style.
prayers, and the ether starts to rust. Tinkering her gold.
I believe that is Null FM. I still need to get around to watch the videos. Null, I'm sorry. I'm just incredibly busy and bad at time management. Okay, I'm bad at time management when I'm off the clock. When I'm on the clock, I'm very like boom, 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 like bullets.
With blueprints in her hand, shadows coil tighter than an hourglass, and
Griff, love to see Griffin Knight.
the city whispers secrets through pipes of rusted bone, where magic leaks like oil and nightmares claim their throne. The wheels keep on turning, the valves start to scream. Something ancient is waking from.
I think I could be mistaken because I didn't talk to Grumpy about this, but I think this is supposed to be a steampunk variation of Roboticus, if I'm not mistaken, Roboticus Prime. Because if so, that's fantastic. I like the way he came out, I like the way he played. And I also like the fact that all of us that were villains with air quotes, we're defeated in a way that doesn't necessarily destroy us. And that's major kudos for me.
Its mechanical dream. Beware, young blood in the.
I believe this is Miss Penny Bloomfield. I recently found her content. I'm slowly consuming it. I will say I like her content a lot, but I find it difficult to react to. Not because of anything specifically, it's just I share a lot of the same opinion she does. So I'm kind of like, well, I'm just going to be agreeing with her the whole video. But who knows, maybe we'll find something to disagree over. Respectfully, of course.
City of steam, where magic meets shadows.
Lynx.
Machine, beware.
Lynx and Kersha. Very nice. Cultists lurk in the shadows. The end is nigh.
Bury the nightmares that spawn from the greed that festers and swells in the souls that exceed one's.
And I really like the introduction here as far as the chessboard or the game board and leaflet being put into play, as it were, by, I assume that's my glove. If it's not my glove, well then I want to know who I'm playing against.
Too bright, one deal sealed in blood, and the brass veils his wide.
I also really like the concept of a machine god for multiple reasons. There's a game called Fear and Hunger, and in Fear and Hunger, humans actually, specifically Fear and Hunger 2, they create a new god called Logic, which basically thinks and acts and basically does everything for them. And basically it creates the internet of the world of Fear and Hunger. But there's also another book setting called the Machine God Chronicles, which I really dig. I really like that concept, which not a lot of people do like. I happen to love it. But anyways, I like this aesthetically because it reminds me of that, because usually it's not a good thing.
Welcome to the flood. Shadows are calling from the smoke and the gear. Run if you can, or conquer your fear.
Of course, Leaflet and Feeble. I'm almost surprised he's not a seal in this one. Yeah, I think I had said that earlier. It really has like Arcanum vibes to it. Arcanum and Victoriana, which is another setting that I liked as well.
Follow the flicker of a lantern held tight.
I do like, they did one thing here that I really like, which is high fantasy, which is instead of having torches, they have glowing crystals that kind of like generate or reverberate the light depending on frequency and so forth. I really like that. Just aesthetically, it's so much more, I guess I'll say, advanced than just a torch, but without breaking the established fantasy tropes. So yeah, I dig it.
Past figures in velvet who gave her a fright. A shadow with tail.
The only thing, let me go back a little bit. I just saw it. I don't know if you, I'm really sorry to nitpick, but this stuck out to me like a sore thumb.
Follow the flicker of a lantern held tight. Past figures in.
Right here, she's supposed to be sneaking in the door, but her hand is kind of clipping through the door. And she's also on the wrong side of the door. I don't fault, of course, Grumpy for that. When it comes to, you know, any sort of prompting, you know, it's a pain in the ass, especially when you're running low on generations and it's just not working with you. But, you know, once again, minor nitpick. Minor nitpick.
Velvet who gave her a fright. A shadow with tail that danced through the haze. A cutlass that sang in the fog-shrouded maze. A rogue in the rafters, a noble ember flame. Each one a thread in the.
I like the inclusion of Ember. I just don't know why she's a bunny girl. Did she have a bunny costume recently that I'm not aware of? I don't mind. I just like, if they just made her a bunny for aesthetics, I mean, that's cool too. I totally dig that, which, you know, I give people full permission by proxy in regards to myself. If you ever want to use me for anything, like, you don't have to stay 100% like canonical to my costume, my outfit. I think actually recently, Suda was telling me I got added to the, was it the Skydex? I was like, yay, I'm official. But if anybody needs it, like I'll be happy to send you like my reference art so you can use it as you need to. Oh, it's for Easter. Okay. Thank you, credits. Thank you.
Tapestry of the game. The machine started humming a tune she once knew, but now it was.
The guy up top was Fushizi. I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I think that's the problem, and I say problem with air quotes, with using us in like outfits that are outside of what we normally have. It's because it can be difficult to like 100% nail down who they are. Like this person, I recognize him, or at least I think I recognize him, but there's also two other people I think he could be. Unless it's just a random no name. I mean, in that case, I'll feel like a jackass. But I'm not 100% certain who he is.
Twisted, and the tune followed you. Beware, young blood.
I do like the way a Lady Wasabi is put into play, like as the kind of like steampunk sniper. I like that.
City of steam, where magic meets shadows. Steel and machine, be wary the nightmares that spawn from the breed that festers and swells.
Yeah, I think this one kind of came out the way that the original one was intended to come out. So this one came out very, very good.
The souls that exceed one spark.
Hey, and it's 2 credits. I believe this is you, because the credits fit the mark.
Too bright, one deal sealed in blood, and the brass veil tears wide. Welcome to the flood. Shadows are calling from the smoke and the gear.
Vesper, I love to see Vesper. I'm almost surprised Vesper wasn't a villain alongside us. You know, because you know, she's a demon, a devil. Not that I'm complaining. I believe Gaming Syndicate. Silas, I believe. That was a great way to have him. Yeah, it was a great way to have him. Yeah, I definitely think that's a steampunk roboticus, and if it's not, then I'll well, I mean, I'll apologize, but that's what it reminds me of, and I dig it. I also like more the fact that they bring him to life as a sense of like having some control over their creation, and he just completely like goes nuts, kind of like you know, like King Kong and in the city type of thing, and I like that a lot.
Of kings turns living steel into terrible things. What once was a wonder now births only fright. In the heart of the spire where the day turns to night, she came here to craft, to learn and gain. Hey,
Lord Intellectual. Roboticus Prime Evil, an alt evil version. Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Fame, but
Often. I actually really like this outfit on her. It looks really nice.
was dragged into the chess master's game.
I believe this is Annibot, unless I'm mistaken. Which, once again, I really like her steampunk variation. That was kind of a rough cut there. Not to nitpick, of course, but that's what I do. Because you see them clashing, it looks really fluid, and then it just kind of suddenly jump cuts. Yeah. I think maybe that could have been covered up a little bit more. I don't know what you're using to like edit, Grumpy, but like maybe a little bit of tip like for future things. Like if you're gonna have a clash like this, you can put in a lens flare or a spark that covers the screen, and I think that will more easily hide like a rough transition like this. So, you know, like right before they make that big clash as it's coming down here, put in that lens flare kind of like upwards, like sparking up, and that will cover that rough transition. So. Yeah, so. Not trying to nitpick, just trying to give constructive criticism. Love you guys. Yeah. Oh, that's all that would have happened. I could have easily like masked that. It would have, it's a trick of the eye. I learned little things like this when I was in broadcasting. Ha! I think that's Bupella, or it's supposed to be a nod to Bupella. Once again, I really like the steampunk outfits. Anything with corset and gears and necessary like buckles and straps, I'm here for it. That's a really good scene. I'd really like that. Because you have the release of energy paired with the other energy, and I think, at least from my perspective, it would kind of like overload the circuit. Or maybe the steam chamber, whatever they're using for magical energy. And the collapsing afterwards, I really dig, because there's a lot of games, Mage the Ascension included, where you can cast with like mana or quintessence or whatever the energy source is, but if you start running low on it, you can kind of tap into your own vigor or life force to kind of supplement a spell to make it more powerful. And I don't think that was the direct intention here, but I definitely like universes that have a I guess I'll see like a sacrifice for performing magic or something that of an extra natural, supernatural kind of feat. In this case, I would say this is like magic that's being channeled through a steampunk focus. That OG, yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm glad somebody understood. I was really trying to dumb it down, but I thought I made it worse. The OG spell fatigue, yes. Yeah, that's my little cameo. I was really proud and humbled to be a part of it.
Hey, bud. Need a ride?
And of course, I think this ties like directly into Vesper's video, which I will also be reacting to. Yeah. No, but this is great. Really liked it. Marty subscribed to Grumpy Whiskers, of course. I already liked the video because friend of mine, but yeah, definitely go check it out. I will be sharing the link after the fact. I'm pretty sure there were some cameos I missed, guys. So for that, I do apologize. For that, I do apologize. Although you guys are free to tell me if there's any I missed, which you know, I'm sure there was. Come on, YouTube. Why don't you play along? Play along, YouTube. Sometimes YouTube is so annoying to work with. Like you guys have no idea. No idea. There we go. Awesome possum. And speaking of Vesper, the next one that we'll be reacting to is the Chud Apocalypse Ashes to Ashes by Miss Vesper Blackthorn, or as her channel is, Vesper Unfiltered, which is fine with me. And I kind of watched a little bit of this unknowingly. It kind of started autoplaying on my on my TV, and I was like, "Oh no!" So I ran quickly to turn it off. But yeah, any better resolution than that? All right.
It's time. Where's Blackthorn?
Either annoying the Kivok family or setting something on fire with Runya.
Can this wait until after coffee? This is just a bit invasive.
Fine, I'll go find Runya and set something on fire.
River dried up and barren earth ahead, scraping for survival. Be better off dead. Faction versus faction,
Hippie Blue Hair's about. Let's not keep them waiting.
Avoid all the cities, have someone keep watch while the rest of us sleep.
So, what are chuds? Basically, people without severe mental illness.
Hey, Andy John, welcome.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. No room for pity in this barren place. Draw first blood or be laid to waste. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. If they back off, we're gonna press our attack. They got what we need, we're gonna take it back. Survival of the fittest, we got the edge there too. We're gonna win the battle if our aim is true. We don't live in this barren world. We just survive and press on night to night. Steal if you can, kill if you must. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. In this barren place, draw first blood or be laid to waste. Don't show fear, don't ever back down. You try to take the chuds on, you'll be 6 feet underground. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
That's sweet.
I hate foxes.
Well, that was almost too easy.
True. I suppose that's what happens when you're against 2-8.
So, all we did was drive around?
Let the young kids fight, dude. It's Sunday. Nice day for a drive.
Fuck, what did I miss?
That was awesome. Was there anything else at the end? Oh, just a Skybrowse logo. That was cool. It was nice to see Whales Bane at the end. I know I had talked to Vesper and she wanted to put me in there somewhere, but she said, I don't know where and I don't have time. And I'm like, it's not an obligation. Believe me, it's not an obligation. You don't have to put me in. It's fine. What's important is that you get your workflow across. But what I really liked about this one is the kind of, I'll say like break in character in the sense of like songing, where like the song would kind of have a lull and the characters would actually talk. I thought that was really, really fun. Of course, here we have Rana, which Rana is somebody I would say I'm pretty good friends with. I'm actually on her Discord for gaming and stuff. She helped me get the original, what's it called, Dragon Age Origins up and running on Windows 11, which was a feat in and of itself. Gen X Wolf cameo. Cool. I did not recognize him. You guys are free to point him out when I get there. Leaflet, of course, as well as I believe that's Celestium. And They all come out really nice. And of course, is it the next little scene? I remember when Vesper had posted this on X, and I was like, I don't know where this is from, but yeah, it's hilarious. And then, of course, where she goes and she meets up with Runia, and I was like, that's appropriate, that's fitting, I dig it. And of course, Psychro driving, I believe. But the whole thing, obviously, in case it isn't obvious, the whole Mad Max vibes, super appealing. Really dig it. I like the way, I believe this is a key box, but I like the way that this is kind of a nod to what was it, an ornithopter? That's one little like helicopter thing that the guy, I think it was in Mad Max 2, drove to kind of get like an aerial view over the fights. Fuck, that's gonna drive me nuts. I'm gonna have to watch that movie again later. I do like how they made this particular individual, who we all know is supposed to represent Hassan, and he looks way too way too small. Ornithopter is correct. Okay, thank you. I thought that was the correct term, but I wasn't sure. And I believe this is supposed to be denim, so that makes it even funnier. And of course, this one, this little scene in many different iterations had been posted all over X, and I just thought it was adorable, especially because of like the Lady Wasabi being fired out of a cannon with the frying pans. I believe this is supposed to be YSR or Gisser, or however he prefers to be called. I could be wrong, but that's what it reminded me of. And of course, non-cheapified Lady Wasabi again. Asmon and Emmy, because I kind of already knew they were going to be in this. I believe this is supposed to be my friend Malice, and I could be mistaken, but I think this is supposed to be a reference to Harmful Opinions. I hope it is, because it's hilarious. I don't recognize who they are, and I'm assuming they might be a nod to some persona non gratas in the various communities. And that was pretty bad, but I can see why Vesper left it in for no other reason than if they're supposed to be undesirables. It doesn't make a difference, you know. They're gonna get pounded on, but the jaw kind of like dislodged in a very Python-esque manner for a moment. Let me see. And I apologize, Vesper. I'm not trying to nitpick. I do this like for everybody's stuff. I'm gonna mute it just so we don't hurt our ears, but. Yeah, you see that? That's just kind of weird. I understand if she left it in because she's like, ah, it doesn't matter. They're going to get thrown in a minute anyways. I don't know. I just, it caught my eye right away, even on the first watch. And I was like, ooh.
In this barren world, we just survive and press on night to night.
I think this is a post-apocalyptic version of Roboticus, which I dig.
If you can, kill if you must. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Yeah, I try not to nitpick stuff like that because obviously I work with AI myself, so I know how difficult it can be, especially when you're low on generations and such. But I will point it out if it's that obvious to me, because if I don't point it out as a friend, someone is going to point it out as a jackass.
Yeah, there be blue hairs about. Let's not keep them waiting.
I really like that weird voice that they gave Silas. Let's not keep them waiting, shall we?
But all the cities have someone keep watch while the rest of us sleep.
So, what are chuds? Basically, people without severe mental illness.
Of course, I was Zayla earlier. I don't recognize the person walking with her, but here we have a nice little cameo for Ovted. I don't recognize the blue one here. Dealer, I recognize the dealer, but I don't recognize her, and it could just be because of the change in costume. I was trying to place her so hard the whole time I was watching, but I'm like, nope, I just can't do it. I can't place her. So I know with this whole scene, right here, especially the part where she kicks him in the nuts and stuff, Vesper was having issues getting the scene the way she wanted because of, I believe it was Grok she was trying to do it with, and it just wasn't coming out correctly. So I think she ended up trying Sea Dance, and she was a lot happier with it. Which is just furthermore reason why I need to invest money into Sea Dance. Maybe after this family trip, I don't know. Of course, Bloop. We get to see Bloop. The Bloop Oshi.
If they back off, we're gonna press our attack. They got what we need, we're gonna take it back. Survival of the fittest, we got the edge there too. We're gonna win the...
Wait a minute. Is that supposed to be another Bloop? Which I'm fine with, but I gotta do the slow playback speed because I just saw something. Get the audio again. Puddle Bloop. Right here, when she grabs him, doesn't it look like she has like a beard or a full beard? I mean, I'm not judging. Bloop can do whatever makes her happy. She wants a beard, more power to her. Far be it from me to tell her she's not allowed to have a beard. But I don't know. That stuck out to me right now, really noticeably. Cops. Bloop with the mutton chop. She's pulling a Wolverine on us. I like Grumpy Whiskers with the cats, and I think that's Lady Wasabi. I might have missed that. Go back a little bit. Oh no, that's Steps Walker. Steps Walker. Which, all the cats, I love all the cats. I really like how like amped Rana gets in this. She gets like she's ready to tear someone's head off. I think that's supposed to be what's her name? Casey Tron. And of course, Arunia, and then we have, I think it's Father Lupus coming out to save her. I will say, total transparency, not that she needed saving, but it's nice to be saved. It's funny that Lord Intellectual's here in the basement, because of course he would be.
Have I mentioned I hate foxes?
Well, that was almost too easy.
True. I suppose that's what happens when you're against 2-8.
So, all we did was drive her.
I like this at the end because it's kind of like those, you guys ever watched like old movies from the 80s where they had just have like a little like bloopers or tracks after the movie's over? It kind of definitely reminds me of that.
Let the young kids fight, dude. It's Sunday. Nice day for a drive.
Fuck, what did I miss?
I just like that Whale's Bane kind of like stood up to the whole thing. Or maybe just showed up late. Vesper, this is great. Great. I really liked it. Looking forward to the next piece that you're working on and that you put out. Don't take my nitpicks as an attack because I love you. I love everybody in the community. Okay, one more video I wanted to react to, and then we're gonna get to some like non-AI video stuff that I wanted to talk about. And of course, I had to bring this one up because it just dropped. And of course, it's Leaflet's new video, Have Babies. Because everyone's been telling me about it. I saw like a little bit of it, and I was like, all right, let's enjoy this. Let's indulge this. I'll make sure it's unmuted. All right. The quality. There we go. All right, let's give it a look-see. Let's give it a listen. Wow, okay. Those are words I did not expect from Leaflet. All right. I mean, from fair play.
星を征服するのは私たちの子供たち Abortion is for assholes Birth control is for pussies 運命よ増やせよベイビー大爆発君の子供孫が銀河を支配するようさぎみたいにどんどん増えていこうみんなで笑顔の家族いっぱい作ろう税金で苦しむ前に愛情たっぷり育ててこの空から宇宙へ飛び立とういやちょっと大胆すぎるかもだけど本気だもん少子化ぶった金ちゃえ Breed more right now 埋めよ増やせよもっと埋めよ Fuck 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 more 冠サイドハー Make 心臓アベブラウ星を征服するのは私たちの子供
Wow.
Abortion is for assholes Birth control is for pussies 運命よ増やせよベイビー大爆発君の子供孫が銀河を支配するよはあどうだった今夜から実践しようかもっと
Oh my god.
宇宙征服しようみんなで一緒に未来を生み落とそうむちゃ
Leaflet knows exactly what the fuck she's doing. She knows exactly what she's doing. Oh my god, this is great. This is better than I imagined. I kind of already knew she was gonna do an idle thing because she had teased it on X, but I'm gonna lower it a little bit so I can talk over it. If there's one thing I have a soft spot for, it's English, and this hits this in the best of the worst ways.
出生率下がってるみんな心配してるよね意味に頼らない
I mean, the message is going into it right away. You know, it completely accurate. Everybody is worried about that. You know, birth rates falling, so forth. I actually have a theory, and this is like tinfoil hat theory, which I think that the whole like left side LGBT LMNOPQ type movement of people is basically an alien psyop to get us to kill ourselves off by you know, stopping the production of, you know, more humans. This way we're easier to colonize. But once again, that's tinfoil hat. Meg's talking.
自分の子を増やそうよ可愛い赤ちゃんいっぱい笑顔で溢れて未来の英雄たちがここから生まれるのアニメみたいに勇気いっぱいライトノベルみたいに夢を追いかけて愛を溢れさせて新しい
Hey Ty, hey Soul6.
運命よ増やせよもっと埋めよ Fuck 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 more 冠サイドハー
And of course, like what really surprised me is I never expected Leaflet to be backseating me when, you know, when I'm balls deep. So that was something I was not expecting, but certainly, I guess I needed that in my life now. You know how like some people have those like romantic songs when they're gonna go to the bedroom, but it's gonna be the one I put on now. It's, you don't understand. It's for the betterment of humanity, of all humanity.
心臓アベブラウ星を征服するのは私たちの子供たち Abortion is for assholes
I really applaud her for putting that very bluntly. Abortion is for assholes. Leaflet music for a sex playlist, you goddamn right. Goddamn right. I just realized, okay, let me move this up a little bit more. There we go. Okay. It's definitely going on my daily rotation.
Birth control
Birth control is for pussies. You goddamn right. If you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right. Peace. I don't think it said so specifically, but I think this outfit is a nod to Bakura. I could be wrong, but I definitely get big Bakura vibes from it. And of course, just in general, you know, rabbits equal fertility, which equals, you know, obvious, you know, breeding. So I get the reference, but if it's not a nod to Bakura's design, I'd be surprised. I know that Leaflet is a big fan of VTubers in general. Unrelated, but that is something Leaflet talks a lot about in her streams, which is that this planet's fucked and we need to we need to get off it. Which I can kind of agree with. Breathe more right now. Yep. Jeez. It would be nice. There's not really much to commentate on because everything is so clean in this video. Like, I'm trying to look for any sort of like faulty transition, faulty model design, but everything is like top notch. Did she do this in C-Dance? Because it's freaking like almost perfect. Like, I see very little to complain about or nitpick for that matter. Oh my god, this part really threw me off. I'm like, god damn, Leaflet. You know exactly what you're doing. Jeez. I do like that she put in like her adventurer outfit as well, because that's kind of what a lot of people know her from. Jeez. Leaflet knows exactly what she's doing. I couldn't be more proud of her. I couldn't be more proud of her. Yeah, this is great. I hope she makes more like videos in this idol style. I know she said she wants to, so I hope she follows through with it, because not just are they fun, they're hilarious. Oh, jeez. That is a good one. All right, guys, now we're going to be moving into stuff that is like non AI video, like specific. This is like some IRL, like current events things. The main one I want to talk about is basically the Stop Killing Games initiative, which I'll say for the record, you know, fuck Pirate Software. I used to look up to that guy a lot before he gave such an L take, mainly because he pushed me to try to code my own game, which I kind of currently am kind of in development of. It's a long process, but basically this is Ross Scott. In case you don't know who he is, he has a YouTube channel called Accursed Games, I believe, or Accursed Farm. Accursed Farms, there we go. And he spearheaded this initiative, which is to stop killing games, the preservation of games, way back when, I think in 2022. I could be wrong, you guys are free to correct me. But basically, they have petitioned so hard that they finally got it before the European Parliament hearing. And this is just his particular speech on it. There's a whole like 40-minute presentation where like everyone talks about it, which maybe I'll do a reaction to separately. But this just in and of itself is, you know, Ross's I guess 10 minutes of time, so to speak. And the reason why it's a big deal, aside from, you know, preserving video games, which a lot of people may or may not consider an art form, I personally do, But it's the fact that once Europe adopts something, then other countries are quick to follow suit. If you guys remember way back when with something like the iPhone, where they used to have that weird like lightning cable, well, the European Union, I believe, or the European Parliament, one of them, I'm not up to date too much on in regards to that stuff, but I know that they basically either sued them or threatened a lawsuit if they didn't change it to be Type-C to make it more convenient with everything. And Apple followed suit. They changed it, and now that's why iPhones have a Type-C charger. And I really hope this gets pushed through, because once Europe adopts it, I'm hoping they adopt it, and I'm actually really curious, what Scott has to say. But once they adopt it, then it will be a completely different environment. Oh, let me refresh that real quick. There we go. All right, guys, let's give it a look-see. This one's going to be a little different because I will be pausing periodically to comment on things as they are being said, and the closed caption should be on. So let's give it a look-see or listen.
I am the founder of the Stop Killing Games consumer movement, which has many shared goals with the initiative. I'd like to clarify what it means to destroy a video game. The second slide. When we say a game has been destroyed, what we mean is a publisher has permanently disabled all copies of it that have been sold so no one can ever play them again.
How many of you guys have a game that you can't play anymore because either it doesn't connect to a server or it doesn't connect to an update server that it requires if you're just all brand new? I hate that shit. I have like a handful of PS3 games. I mean, I haven't played my PS3 in years, but I have a handful of PS3 games I cannot play anymore because of this shit.
It would be like removing every single copy of a book or film in existence, effectively erasing it from the culture. The way this practice works is first a publisher sells a copy of a video game. However, it has been designed so that it must connect to the publisher in order to function. This access...
Yeah, I think this right here
is a potential...
This right here is a problematic point of issue. The fact that since it has to connect to the publisher in order to work, the publisher ultimately has control over when they're going to pull a plug on it. I can think of, like, for example, like an older game. Okay, here's a good one, because I was just talking about it earlier with people on Discord. Diablo 2, old school Diablo 2. I can still get my copy of Diablo 2 on CD, install it, and run it off the CD key that it came with. Now, I know there's lots of updates and balances and so forth, yada, 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 right? But with Diablo 2, just as it is, I can still enjoy and play the whole game off the CD because it is a finished product, a finished, completed product. That does not need to connect to the internet, but the internet does, add fun, updates, accessibility, balances, etc., like I said earlier. But you take something like Diablo 4, I don't think Diablo 4 can be played offline. I think it demands that you connect to the internet at least once a day. Diablo 3 maybe, but I know Diablo 4 for sure. And I think this is a big issue right here. The game is designed to connect to the publisher in order to work.
Kill switch. The customer is also given no information when the...
Yeah, the customer will not be told when their game will stop working at the time of purchase. Which, I mean, I will play devil's advocate. I don't like to, but I'll play devil's advocate and say this is entirely subjective because they don't know how popular a game will be. But I also think as a corporation or company, what have you, they have an obligation to at least put something out there. If you're going to put a new game out and you're going to include any sort of multiplayability, or not just multiplayability, anything that's going to require you to connect to the internet. At the minimum, I would say a year of support at minimum. My perspective. I would like it to be indefinite, but it is what it is.
Game will stop working, even though the publisher has decided to assume that responsibility. Then, after an undisclosed length of time, the publisher disables all existing copies of the game, but keeps the...
Yeah, see, after an undisclosed length of time, the publisher disables the game for the customer, which I think is bullshit. That's my main issue. Like, I love physical media. Full transparency, I love physical media. I love having things digitally, don't misunderstand me. But, the fact that somebody can take something away from me just by, basically flipping a switch really rubs me the wrong way. You will own nothing and like it.
Customers' money.
Oh, also in regards to that, the publisher will keep all the customers' money for sales. Not just that, a lot of times they will put out a remastered or remake or HD version or what have you to try to essentially trick the customer into buying the same game again because they're like, well, don't you want to play it? Yes, but I already bought it, you fucking asshole.
The publisher also enacts countermeasures to ensure repairing the game. Sorry. To ensure repairing the game is almost impossible, even for experienced software professionals.
Yeah, so that's one thing that a lot of us have taken to doing, which is maybe more on the shadier side, but you know, hacking, cracking, patching, etc. And a lot of times we do this to games because how else are they going to work if the plug gets pulled on it? I mean, like people will say, well, piracy, whatever, and it's like, well, is it piracy if you don't own a game? I don't. We can ask Keen. You know, he's a pirate, right? He would be the authority on it. See, Ty said, I've seen some companies do some big sale before cutting a service and chunk of money. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've seen that too, especially on Steam, where there'll be a big sale for, I don't know, I'll just say Square Enix off the top of my head. There'll be like a big sale for Square Enix games, and then you go and you buy a bunch of them, and then they pull support. I even saw it recently with Fallout, with Fallout 3 and Fallout 76. I'm sorry, not 76, Fallout New Vegas being removed from listing, which was kind of annoying because then we found out later that they were releasing an HD version. And I was kind of like, wow, that's kind of like almost exactly what I said. They're trying to remove your access from playing it originally, like the way it was. And there's times when they don't tell you. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest issue.
From this point onward, no customer can ever run the purchase again. Besides destroying the game, this
most video games can work indefinitely without publisher support. Yes, that's how games used to be. This has been a customer expectation for over 50 years. Yes, I agree with that. I'm not 50 years old, but I can say, like, you know, growing up, whenever I would, you know, get something like a PS1 or PS2 game, I knew that I could put it in, play it, and it was a complete game. It might have its glitches, its bugs, its what have you, but it was still, for the most part, a complete game. Video games that connect to the internet can also operate indefinitely without support if designed responsibly. I think that's an excellent way of putting it, if designed responsibly. A good way of that, well, once again, I'm going to use the Diablo design for Diablo 2, even Diablo 1 by extension. There is a way where you can play Diablo 2 and Diablo 1 just over TCP/IP and LAN settings. So you can still, if you wanted to multiplayer it, still enjoy it that way without the need for, you know, the BattleNet connection, which I don't think BattleNet necessarily in and of itself is inherently bad, but, you know, it's an extra step.
practice is also subverting customer expectations. Most video games can work indefinitely, which has been the customer standard for half a century, including ones that connect to the internet. Alternately, a small number of video games operate as subscription services, but those inform the customer exactly when their access ends at the time of payment. The games we're referring to do no such thing. It's a bit of miscommunication. They almost always contain terms stating they can end at any time for any.
Most games require an online connection to the publisher. They are permanently disabled as soon as support ends. Yep. Do not give the customer information about their access and at the date of purchase. And I'm going to have to turn off the captions real quick for us. Information on a game's lifespan is integral to a customer's buying decisions, which I absolutely agree with. I'm not going to buy into a game or invest into a game if it's going to be if it's going to have itself, like, basically the plug pulled on it, at least server-wise. There was a time when I think Palworld, they were going to stop supporting Palworld because of a lawsuit from Nintendo. And everyone was like, you should buy Palworld now before, you know, it disappears from Steam and this and that and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I would, except the fact that if I buy it, what if they have to take down their servers, and then what am I going to connect to? And of course, it goes into the whole thing of private servers and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, you know, you have a point, but it is what it is. I'm glad I held off on it because the game is still up, so yay.
Reason. What this means is customers have no real protections when they buy games like these. They are unable to keep them, and they are not informed when they will end. This behavior would be outrageous in other industries. If you bought a book in a store, the publisher could not come into your home and take back.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. That's the main reason why, I mean, I have a pretty extensive library of books that are basically, you know, like tabletop books, as well as fiction books, as well as some like religious books and so forth. You know, and I enjoy collecting them for just those reasons. Like if I buy like a new, like the D&D book, for example, usually I can get it cheaper if I choose to buy the PDF, but the problem with buying just the PDF is if I misplace that PDF, aka it gets deleted or there's a hard drive crash or something, then everything's just, you know, shit out the window. But if I have the physical book, I can read it anytime, any place, basically under any circumstances. I don't need power, so to speak, in order to enjoy it, read it, play the game. It's a little bit different, you know, because, you know, tabletop games, but video games are slightly different. Anyways.
Your book at will. If you bought an insurance policy, you would be informed when that policy ends.
Yeah, that's true.
The seller could end it at any time for any reason, but still keep your money. The games being sold this way are...
Oh, that's a really good point. Not that the seller could end it at any time for any reason, but still keep the money. What that tells me is that if this goes through in a big way, we might be seeing like multiple class action lawsuits of people wanting money back for games that they've purchased and haven't gotten to fully enjoy or finish because of the fact that, well, somebody else, a third arbiter, if you will, has decided that they are now cut off from it.
Ended at any time for any reason, but still keep your money. The games being sold this way are operating similar to scams.
I agree.
Publishers know
Scams, absolute scams.
So they sell these in the same way as ones that can work forever. As a one-time purchase with no expiry date, then price them the same.
Oh my god, guys, that reminds me. Hold on, let me see if I can get it. I started getting like really scared about this shit when this is probably going to be a bad example, but I'm just going to bring it back. We do need no more magical girls. Okay, this isn't mine, but I'm just bringing it over from another panel. I started getting really concerned when I would see games like this, and this is which game, so you know it is what it is, but I've seen a number of other games where you go to the store, pay full price for a fucking game, buy a chunk of plastic with a download code, and I'm like, I didn't pay the extra money, you know, for, you know, to put this on my shelf, which I do have a nice extensive, like, the PS1 collection, you know, but I digress. You know, I want, if I'm going to put a game on the shelf, so to speak, I want it to have actual, you know, value to it. I want it to have the actual game in there. And, you know, seeing shit like this, it's just like, this isn't what I'm paying for. This isn't what I signed up for. And also, more importantly, you know, like, this is a ripoff. You know, if you're selling me a purely digital product, why am I being charged for a production fee? It doesn't make sense to me. It's a pure and deliberate scam.
Publishers know that if customers were informed exactly when they plan to disable their games, that would reduce sales, since the longevity of a game affects how much customers are willing to pay.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. However, I do think that's a very subjective point, and I don't like having to defend anything, but I can say, for the sake of argument, if I put out a game and I want to fully support and endorse, I'll say like my servers, and I'm dedicating to do it for a whole year. Well, what happens if the game dies before that year's up? Well, then I just lost money. I don't know. I just think it's a big it's a big point of concern for me. That's what I would say.
The industry is trying to have it both ways, finding ways to say they're selling you a game that they're not selling you. This creates confusion for everyone involved and is part of...
Yeah, because if they want to do it like that, that's more of a license or leasing condition. And in that case, I would say, I mean, because I have a few family members that they like lease their houses, they rent apartments, and it's like there's certain benefits to renting over what would think if they tied it to a player count dropping below. They could, but you see, it's like if you're let's take the game like Helldivers 2. I know you guys have been playing Helldivers 2 a lot. If you invested into the game and they told you, hey guys, enjoy it for the year because it's going to be gone after that, then they're shooting themselves in the foot because no one's going to buy it. They're like, well, I'm not going to play a game, invest all this time in a game, just have it yanked away after a year. But by the same token, it's like, I can't say in good faith, I'm going to support this game for 10 years. And then after, 2 years, the player base just drops off. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I do believe that something could be done where they can put something in writing where it's like if the player count drops below 1,000, then they can close the servers early as long as notifications given or something. I think that could work, but I think the better fix is for them not to have games that are completely 100% reliant solely on connectivity.
Of why it's taking customers so long to get exposure on this practice.
Yeah, that's true.
The legality is also unsettled. Earlier, members of Parliament assisted us in asking questions to the EU Commission about how legal the terms and game license agreements were, especially being able to terminate them at any time for any reason.
To see the query, most popular form of entertainment, right? Many video games today sold require access servers. Okay, this is what was entered into the Parliament. Okay.
The Commission stated Directive 9313 EEC prohibits unfair terms causing a significant imbalance in the parties' rights and obligations to the detriment of consumers.
I definitely think that it's a miracle because, Ross Scott, he doesn't live in the UK, but he was brought in to speak on it because he was the primary pusher behind this movement. He was the one that started it, got the ball rolling. And it's amazing that they're listening to him when, as far as I know, he is not a citizen of the EU by any means. I definitely prefer always having access to some level of gameplay if multiplayer is. Yeah, exactly. For example, going back to the Helldivers thing, Ty. If there was an option where you could matchmake with people on your friends list directly versus having to connect to a server. And for example, if we're playing with somebody like Dex, who just happens to live on the moon, then him living on the moon, it means like, well, guess what the trade-off is? You have to deal with his leg. But the point is, you would still be able to play together, or at least try to play together. Keyword, right? Try. Love you, Dex. Too many, maybe.
The Commission also recommended consumers file complaints with businesses across member states through the European Consumer Centers Network. In 2024, we had volunteers across the majority of EU countries submitting complaints against the French company Ubisoft for disabling the game The Crew. The responses we received...
Yeah, The Crew is where that all started. That's where it all started.
...from the ECC network were extremely inconsistent. Some officials said there was nothing they could do. Others said the company was required to run the game indefinitely, which is unrealistic.
Yeah, I think it's unrealistic.
Stated there was no clear regulation on this practice. We were independently able to get thousands of complaints submitted to consumer agencies in France and Germany, but there still has been no decision on them on the legality either. To the best of our knowledge, no one in the EU has ever been compensated for this and hundreds of other titles. In short, governments in EU countries are not sure how to handle this situation, and
EU pisses me off with Anthem. Anthem is, like, I never played Anthem. I was excited for it, but I never got around to it. And then, of course, when I did get around to it, I think it was dead already. But EA in general pisses me off for no other reason than they basically ruined Dragon Age. They ruined freaking, what's it called? Mass Effect. I still want to go back. Maybe I'll stream those games one of these days because I love the series before their recent incarnations. Actually, scratch that. I did like Andromeda. I thought that was a different angle to take Mass Effect. It wasn't my Mass Effect, but I did like it. But it was by no means of Veilguard. Veilguard was shit. I got an ad at the beginning of you mentioning Anthem. I just said that Anthem was something that I never really got to enjoy myself. It was on my list to enjoy, and when I got around to it, I think it was already dead, or at least the servers were dead.
Customers are overwhelmingly not being compensated for the loss of their purchases. It is an ideal situation for clear regulation. This is not a new practice. It started approximately 2005 and began negatively impacting customers for them around 2010 onward. However,
Yeah,
it often
I can
affects
see
a
that.
minority of customers whose complaints can get lost in the system. It wasn't until a large case affecting millions that any attempts to get government attention were possible, and there still is no answer. The EU Commission says this must be handled on a case-by-case basis, but this practice is extremely widespread. Future slides. We have formed an amateur study examining over 1,100 video games that require a connection to the publisher.
Games with multiplayer modes. 4.6 publishers let you keep the game or let you keep their games. 95% of publishers disable customer games with any sort of multiplayer mode. That's ridiculous. Welcome back, Ty. Full games only 6.5% of publishers let you keep their game, and 93.5% disable the customer's game. Jeez. I assume for full games only they're referring to like single player style games. And if only 6.5. See, this is what hesitates me a lot with something like Dragon Age, which I had mentioned earlier, because I do like that series. But every time I want to play Dragon Age, regardless of whether it's Dragon Age 1, 2, Inquisition, and God forbid Veilguard for some reason, it does ask me to check my connection to things. And it's like, I don't know, man. I just worry about the day those servers go offline and if that's how that's going to affect things.
The majority of these have been deliberately disabled by the publisher, with many of the rest still at risk of being destroyed. Under the strictest interpretation of what it means to disable a game, the study found that out of over 400 titles, publishers disable a customer's purchase 93.5% of the time with any support. This business practice is responsible for more destruction to the media.
That's basically like somebody walking into your house and grabbing a handful of games, telling you that's all you get, and then walking out with the rest.
Than anything else by an enormous margin. There is also a strong correlation between this practice and
chances are they're probably not going to be the games you like.
the size of the publisher, as most small studios do not engage in it, as it requires far more resources, work, and liability than they can handle.
That's a very important point, because that's actually why I, as well as other people in the community, and I guess various other communities like Proxy, have started really enjoying like the indie studio games. I mean, one, because we get to help people that have a sincere goal or dream to put out something awesome, but more importantly, it's to let me think how to say this. It's to know that you're going to have the game as long as possible, because they don't plan to like pull the plug on it. And that includes like weird games like Schedule 1 and Peak and so forth, because I mean, like, I think we can play those directly. Like I can connect directly to my friends and we can play that. Same with Repo, Among Us by extension. I think we can connect like locally. So I don't know. It's just, this disgusts me.
So even though this impacts a minority of games, it disproportionately affects customers due to the scale of the largest offenders. From sales figures, it impacts tens of millions of customers, minimum in the EU. This impacts developers as well. This may seem obvious, but based on interviews and feedback, we found the majority of game developers do not support having games they've worked on destroyed. They can spend...
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. Another problem is gacha games. Any gacha game should be released with content and character, so people play after investment. Yeah, I can agree with that. And that's because I don't like gacha games, but there are a few that I do play, like Nikkei is one, Azure Lane's another one, and Lost Sword is another one as well. People can say, oh, well, those are Gunnar games. Well, whatever. To each their own. But it is always concerning when you invest a lot of money into a game that is a gacha game and they kind of like pull the rug out from under you and they're like, aha, we're shutting down and all your money. So long, sucker. But no, yeah, it's a big problem, especially with gacha. I think gacha games are in a whole nother league of evil aside from just this, because not only do they prey on a FOMO, more importantly, they teach bad habits of gambling, maybe to kids or weak-minded individuals who wouldn't be exposed to that previously. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not your dad. You do what you want with your money.
Years of their lives creating them, but they are often not the ones making these business decisions, and sometimes even sign non-disclosure agreements so they cannot voice their opinion on the matter. The main point I hope that does not get lost in this hearing is this initiative welcomes any solution that will solve the problem of video games being destroyed on this scale. We want this to be as easy and as practical as possible for all parties involved and are very open to how that is achieved. We are not even asking publishers to change their business or monetization models, only that once they end support, they do so in a responsible way.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Like, however they decide to do it. I right away, what comes to my mind is patch deployment. Anyone who's worked in sort of IT knows what, that you always deploy on a, what's the expression, never deploy on a on a Friday. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad weekend. Not only do I dislike gacha systems, but I also not a fan of season passes for the same FOMO reason. Yeah, season passes are different. I think, for example, like Where Winds Meet is a nice little medium for no other reason than there is a free pass and you'll still get pretty much the same things. You don't really feel like you're losing out. If you choose to buy it, that's cool, but they don't like restrict your enjoyment of the game based on it. But yeah, anyways, going back to the deployment idea, I think when a game is nearing end of life for the publisher, all they would have to do really is just say, okay, here's the end of life deployment patch, send it out, and then essentially flip the knobs or turn the switches or whatever they need to do, and now that game is in like either single player only mode or in TCP/IP mode, which basically means you can only connect to each other if you have a server or if you want to connect directly to your friend's TCP/IP internet config, which is a bit more tech savvy. But let's be honest, the people that care about this stuff, like myself, we're probably more on that tech savvy side of the spectrum, so it makes sense.
Our only goal is to prohibit this destructive practice and thus obtain basic protections for consumers and the medium as a whole. I'd like to add a little bit on the economic aspect. Again, when planned for from the beginning, the cost can be very small. It's mostly about when it's undoing that's more of a cost related. Earlier the game Concord was mentioned. That's
oh my God, Concord!
Because it's publicly stated that.
Okay, yeah, say what you will about Concord, right? Let's all admit it was a dumpster fire. However, you know how much like ridiculous, stupid fun it would be to go like full retard for an evening and say, hey guys, let's all just jump on Concord and we'll just like, make fun of it and, dick around. And I think that would be a hilarious thing to do, but now we can't do that because, there's no servers. Which I don't want this to be interpreted as like, oh, well, it's because you didn't support Concord. Of course I wouldn't support Concord. That game was fucking abysmal. Just design-wise. I don't care how good of a shooter it was, or hero shooter it was fucking abysmal.
At least 370 million euros were spent developing that game, and it did not include an end-of-life plan like what we're seeking. Most of the cost for developing games tends to come from other areas like art assets or marketing. Mm-hmm. This is just one element out of hundreds that already go into making a game. The other thing is sometimes industry costs or estimates of how much this would cost can be faulty.
Yeah, of course they're faulty.
Expecting the game they were asking for to have every last feature it did while it was being supported. And many of those...
You got an NES collection? Okay. On a Discord, I do have a retro games area. You got to send me the games you have, and I'll send you the games I have. Because I actually do have an NES. It's actually a Retron 1 so it plays like original NES games, but like with the HD graphics. I say HD with air quotes, but it is something that I could stream. Maybe I'm considering it, especially the way these games are going.
Can be retired and don't even make sense for a game that's no longer being supported, like administration or anti-cheat measures or account management or things like that. So that can drastically, there could be hundreds, or known as microservices.
I think anti-cheat in general is a piece of shit. I don't think it should be in games. I think if there's a cheating problem, the game developers themselves should find out what the vulnerability is and fucking patch it instead of relying on a third-party thing like anti-cheat that all it does is lock out Linux users from enjoying a lot of games because guess what? They're not running Windows compliant software.
Associated with these that can be disabled and the customer still has the core game. So that should be taken into account when figuring.
That is something. Would you guys prefer to keep a game? I brought up Helldivers before, but I'll bring it up again. Let's say Helldivers was to like die. Let's say tomorrow they're like, okay guys, we're going to kill the game. You know, it was a good run. Hope you guys enjoyed it, but we can't afford to maintain the servers. Blah. You guys can still play the game in a single player kind of like matchmaking bot match mode type thing, but we'll unlock all cosmetics because there's no point in keeping them behind the paywall anymore. But there'll be no online connectivity. It's all going to be like bot matches, for lack of a better word. Would that still be something you guys would want? Because I'm torn on it. There was a game I used to really like when I was younger called Star Wars Battlefield, and not the crappy new ones that they kind of like remade, but the original ones for PS1 and PS2. And I had a lot of fun with those, and those were entirely like bot matches. Like, yes, you could connect online because the PS2 did have a modem built in, but for the most part, if you were to buy the game brand new, then you would just be playing bot matches. You'd be doing missions, so it'd be like advancing through a story mode, so to speak. But I really enjoyed that. I didn't think it really took away from the story at all, or sorry, from the enjoyment, not the story at all. I'd prefer that over nothing. Yeah, see, that's what I'm leaning towards. I know there's people, for example, like fucking Pirate Software, who is like, oh, that's a detriment to whatever. Why would you want to remember a game on its last leg? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter because it's my last leg, not yours.
Out the potential cost. And it might have been mentioned earlier, but we also want to emphasize the companies have been paid already once for the working game. So that should be factored into the budgeting. There were some other points mentioned on the right to repair, whether we need it and how long.
The original Killzone had bots that was on leading to end. I just butchered that entirely. So sorry for that, miscreant mule. The original Killzone had bots, and that was one of the leading end of. That was on the leading end of online gaming. I think you mean they turned it on towards the end of Killzone's original online gaming stuff, which makes total sense. I would rather have a game with bots where you could connect to, and it would just auto-generate. And at the very least, you can still play the game. Like if I want to do like an expose, so to speak, or a game, I guess essay as far as about Killzone, I could load it up, do a couple of bot matches just to get some relevant footage and then go from there, which I think is great. I mean, fuck, you can do that with fucking Quake 2. Why can't they get this shit right?
Product should work. With right to repair, that's a little bit different issue.
Could play offline with 2-player and bots also. Oh, see, that's a great idea. Especially if you have a small circle of friends and you could play offline or collect via LAN or TCP/IP. And then it's like, let's say there's only 2 or 3 players that are actual like real people, and you could have, the real people versus the bots, which I think is fine. I think it could be pretty fun, especially if you can up the difficulty of the bots so they're like pretty much unkillable or like skill levels through the roof. I think that's fun. Having all the human players, versus the crazy killer bots. I think that's fun, but that's just me.
Certainly welcome having the right to that. As I mentioned in my presentation, the there are deliberate countermeasures to prevent repair. That it's almost like a small miracle when it does happen from extremely experienced.
Yeah, I think just recently they actually stopped the crew from being completely offline. Like some people were able to make like a private crew server, which is all great. Like, don't get me wrong, I am all in favor of private servers, but the issue with private servers is there is somebody or a small team inherently that runs it, and life eventually happens, which basically means that eventually the person who's running the server is going to stop, or life's going to get in the way, or they're going to hand it over to somebody who maybe doesn't have the best intentions, and then the game will die again. And that's what scares me. That's what worries me.
Software professionals for resurrecting a game. However, if there were repair instructions, that would be very welcome. I think
it had difficulty change. Had difficulty change and sack bots on one team to imbalance teams. You see, something simple. Why can't they do that? Like in this fictional scenario where Helldivers is taken offline, do something like that.
Even consider that a viable alternative to what we're asking, if it was practical to resurrect the game that way. And for how long it should work, it's kind of again, the customer standard is indefinitely, as long as they keep the game in good working order on their end. And we're not trying to hold any publishers responsible for updates that break things that wasn't their doing.
Yeah, exactly. I can agree with that. I think the main issue became when these developers started making it so people had to rely on them, had to connect to them in order to enjoy a basic game. And there was one game I had. I think it was Diablo 3. I'm bringing up Diablo again for like the third or fourth time. But I could play that game entirely offline, but it did require me to connect to the internet at least once every 24 hours, which I hated. But, oh well.
So how long they choose to support it, we're completely open to. I mean, I think there's already existing EU regulations on that, but I mean, they, as far as we're concerned, they could end support the next day, but as long as the game isn't destroyed, we would find that acceptable. And the last point on the, for doing this through the existing, just doing this through the courts, through the legal action, that still doesn't get to the heart of the matter of the game itself being destroyed. We're not really refunds and compensation. Those are a secondary measure that when the game itself can't be reinstated, we just want the game preserved. So doing it through the existing framework doesn't quite get us there necessarily.
I think it's really, really great. I admire a lot that he's done to push this initiative. And I could totally agree with that, especially what he said right here.
For doing this through the existing, just doing this is the part of the matter of the game itself being destroyed. We're not really.
I can, and this is speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but in regards to refunds and compensations, I am completely 100% fine. If they told me, hey, these old games we can't preserve, so we're going to abandon them, but starting in space year 2026 going forward, all games that are released will now force to have this offline, I'll say end of life, patch at the end to preserve them. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, is it going to suck to lose some stuff? Yes, but once again, that's where community stuff comes in, because I think it's easier for us as a community to find, like, for example, hey, these 20 years worth of games, let's work to preserve these before they go down entirely, than to have to do that indefinitely for like games that just come out and come out and come out. It's ridiculous. I think I'm fine if they draw a line in the sand. They're like, okay, we have to do this starting now and then going forward. We can't like retroactively look back. I mean, I was watching an interview with Tim Kaine a while back where he worked on the original Fallout. And when he left Interplay, they told him, well, you have to destroy your copy of the, the master code, the master file, the source code. There we go. So he deleted it. Well, then years later, they came crawling. They're like, "Hey, Tim, do you have a copy of that source code?" And he's like, "No, you told me to delete it." And it's kind of a very similar situation, because it's like, if a company has a game franchise that's older and they've already kind of cut, you know, support for it, and then they suddenly have to go back to try to implement that support, it's kind of like, well, do they even have the source code anymore? Usually get a full game working. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like the intention that I'm kind of going for. I think they should just sell fucking completed games. Like, I don't know why they don't. Like, a good example, the original Fallout 4, when Fallout 4 came out originally, it came with a day one patch, but if for whatever reason you could not get that day one patch, you could still technically play the game, but it was so buggy, I think. You could only complete it, I think, with the Railroad quest line, not with any of the other, like, factions, because it was just that fucking broken without that day one patch. Which, that's a whole other issue. Day one patches are a whole other issue that pissed me off. But yeah, this is a great video, guys. I will definitely share this with you. There is a longer 40-minute version of it where he talks in depth as far as, I'm sorry, not just Scott, everybody else talks about, like, basically this bullshit that's going on. And I think it's important. I think it's something to think on, because it affects all of us, regardless of whether we like it or not. Fortnite is no different. I agree with that, sadly. I think the best thing they could do for Fortnite, and I will say for the record, I'm not a Fortnite fan, is basically put it in an offline end of patch mode, leave it with bots, and just, if they still want to play it, go for it. Leave that option out there. That's all they can do, you know? I think that's the best way they could handle something like that. And that's coming from someone who doesn't like Fortnite. Yeah. All right, guys, let me see. Check how much time I got left. Appreciate you guys being here hanging out. I know it's a little different from the content that I usually do, but this is actually the content that I enjoy doing the most. I do have this. I wanted to react to this too, and this, and this, and this. That's an hour long. Hey, Bones Shangle. Hey, Bones. Thanks so much for the raid, Bonesy. Appreciate you.
Bones Jangle has summoned 6 demon spawn.
Yay. Glad to have you guys here. Welcome, my fellow boners. This one might be too long. Hello, Zelda. How are you doing? I think I have time to squeeze this one in, so I will go ahead and drop this one in right now. I'm doing well. I'm reacting to life stuff. I'm sorry, not life stuff. Okay, this is by... Hold on a second. There we go. Once more now from the top. This is a Valve just changed the hardware game forever. And the reason why this is important, at least from my perspective, I'll get it up. There we go. Yeah. Is the fact that we all know hardware costs have been ridiculous, especially with the increase in memory. And say what you will, I happen to like my AI slop very much. I'm not gonna give it up anytime soon. But I'm really curious and kind of excited to see what Valve has solution-wise. So let's see what's going on with them.
For years, if you wanted to play real PC games, you were locked into a very specific box. You needed an Intel or AMD processor. Windows was the gatekeeper. Then, Valve released the Steam Deck and proved that Linux was ready for the big leagues.
I think Linux has always been ready for the big leagues. I think we all know that. Oh shit, I just realized something. Hold on, guys. Let me reload it one more time.
You needed an Intel or AMD processor. Windows was the gatekeeper.
Yeah, it really was. Intel and AMD, those are the only two platforms that you could really go with, or processor platforms, to basically help there. Hello, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for the raid. Love you guys.
Then, Valve released the Steam Deck and proved that Linux was ready for the big leagues. But yesterday, Valve did something even more game-changing. They didn't just update Proton, they released the first official ARM.
Holy shit. This is okay. I think they're going to explain why this is a big deal. Because that'll save me breath from explaining it.
64 build. They have officially unlocked the most played library in the world for a completely different architecture. We are talking about SteamOS on standalone VR headsets like the Steam Frame and a new generation of ultra-efficient handhelds. Today we're diving into the Proton 11 beta. We'll examine the NT Sync change that's delivering a 600% performance boost to some games, the implementation of FexEmu, and why this is a clear signal that Valve's next hardware is right around the corner. Before we get to the ARM magic, we have to talk about the core change. Proton 11 is a massive rebase onto Wine 11.
Okay, in case you guys don't know what Wine is, wait, are they going to explain it? I think they're going to explain it. But basically, Wine was a way to play Windows games and Windows applications to run them on Linux systems.
Star of the show here is something called NT Sync. If you've been following Linux
I got top
gaming
loader,
for a
nice.
while, you've heard of eSync and fSync. These were workarounds used to translate how Windows games talk to the CPU. In Windows, games use NT synchronization primitives. Linux didn't have a native way to understand these, so Proton had to translate them on the fly, which created a massive performance bottleneck. With Wine 11 and Proton 11, we finally have NT Sync. This is a native implementation inside the Linux kernel, specifically kernel 6.14 and later. Let's just look at the numbers from some early developer benchmarks, because they are pretty absurd. Dirt 3 went from 110 FPS to...
Look at these numbers. Fall of Juarez went up 125% improvement. Dirt 3, a 678 improvement. Warcraft Temple of Osiris, 131% improvement. Resident Evil 2, I assume that's the remake. 196 improvement. Tiny Tina's Wonderland. These are like older games, but yeah. 177% improvement.
860. That is a 678% improvement.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Jumped from 26 FPS, pretty much barely playable, to 77 FPS. Tiny
You get to keep the games, damn right.
Gains from 130 FPS up to 360. Now, to be clear, it's not like you're going to see a 600% jump in something like Cyberpunk 2077 on your Steam Deck today. Those massive leaps are happening in games where the CPU was the bottleneck, but
I still need to finish Cyberpunk. I mean, I got one ending with it, and I know all the endings are kind of the same, but one of these days, when I get my second CPU, I'm going to have two CPUs, two computers for streaming. One just for running OBS, and one for running the games, so that should solve a lot of problems. Because I'm rolling in the dough. That's a lie. I'm rolling in no such dough. You got all the endings. Yeah, I have seen all the endings, Bones. I just, it's different when you experience it yourself, you know? Movies, it was ruled in U.S. courts that, you know, the movie transfer to whatever media you want to watch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have the right. I think the same also applies to our music media. So, for example, if I have a CD, I have the right to make copies of the songs, whether it's like to iCloud or MP3s or FLAC or what have you. I have the right to do that because I physically purchased the media. Now, what they don't teach you is how to do that. That's a whole different, situation.
For every gamer, this means lower latency, fewer micro stutters, and much better frame time consistency. Valve developed.
Oh my God, microstutter. That's exactly why I stopped participating in Guild Wars for a guild in Where Winds Meet. Not because I didn't enjoy it. It just, I was getting so many micro stutters because of frame drops, and not even because of my hardware. It's just because of the like the lag, not even on my side, but server side, because we were getting paired up with teams that were like freaking like on the moon. So our ping was ridiculous and stupid. And I was like, I'm just getting frustrated, so I'm gonna step out, let somebody else in. Bone says I'm excessive about saving, so I was able to go back and redo saves to get all the endings. Luckily, nailed the hidden ending for the first run without planning to. That's awesome. If it's a hidden ending, I think it is. That's a cool ending.
Developers have often talked about removing the friction between the player and the game, and NT Sync does that exactly. Beyond the speed, we have massive compatibility wins. Games that were previously stuck in experimental or just flat out broken are now officially supported. We're talking
that's
about
awesome.
classics like the original Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, and Shogun Total War. Valve is making sure that the entire history of PC gaming, not just the new games, travels with us.
Dude, that's fucking goated. That's this is why Valve continues to win without really having to do anything except putting the player first. I know it's a cringy expression. I know fucking GameStop coined it first by power to the player, but it really feels like Valve lives to that, like literally, because they are gamers themselves. So why would they want to have to be fiddling with all this shit? They just want it to work.
Into this new era. So now let's go into why this update is actually a really big deal, and that comes down to Proton 11 ARM64.
Okay,
this
good.
is the secret sauce. The problem with ARM chips, the kind that are in your phone or even the Meta Quest, is that they use a completely different instruction set architecture than the x86 64 processors in your PC.
So this is CPU. This is what a lot of us have been using standard for ages. And this is really old tech. And I'm surprised, honestly, because I hadn't built a computer for maybe like 2 or 3 years. When I came back to it, and my brother was helping me build a computer, and he pulled one of these out. It's like the pins were a little bit smaller, but the same basic like structure of it was the same. Hey, Rhino Rocks, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Appreciate you, buddy. I was surprised. I was like, wow, it's just not much has changed in regards to this. And he's like, well, we have M2 hard drives now instead of IDE hard drives. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm aware.
To fix this, Valve has been quietly sponsoring a project called FexEmu, which we have covered before on the channel, but if you are unaware, Fex is a high-performance user space emulator that translates x86 instructions into ARM instructions in real time. With Proton 11, Valve has officially baked Fex 2604 directly into the compatibility layer for the first official time. The latest 2604 update focuses on two things: memory savings and x87 transcendental optimizations. Many ARM handhelds like the Odin 2 or Retroid Pocket are limited to 8GB or 12GB of RAM. Fex 2604 introduces
that's always my issue. So a while back, I had the opportunity to take a look at an Odin 2 for review purposes. Not myself, but a company, a company I was working with, and I liked it, except that it really gets throttled with only 8 GB of memory, or at least the version that we had access to.
2 or Retroid Pocket are limited to 8GB or 12GB of RAM. Fex 2604 introduces major memory usage optimizations that allow x86 games to run without hitting that out-of-memory wall. For games like Fallout New Vegas, which rely heavily on old...
Oh my god, Fallout New Vegas has such a big fucking memory leak. Oh my god, it was almost unplayable. Like Skyrim also had the same memory leak problem, now that I'm remembering correctly. It's like if you played too many hours without but basically, I don't know if it was counted by doors or items in the inventory or something, but if your save file got bigger than, I think it was like 8 megabytes or 12 megabytes, it would just like stop like letting you save. It would tell you it saved, but just wasn't saving anymore.
x87 math instructions, Fex offers up to a 3.7x improvement in specific operations. This is essentially Valve's Rosetta 2. When Apple switched...
That's okay. I've been kind of behind Steam myself as well. Don't worry, credits.
to their own M1 chips, they had Rosetta to make sure your old apps still worked. Valve essentially just did that, but for the entire Steam library. The barrier
That's
for
awesome,
different
man.
hardware is now completely gone. This isn't just about Valve, it's about a broader shift in the industry. Microsoft is heavily pushing Windows on ARM with Snapdragon X Elite and X Plus laptops.
I actually have a lot of experience with the Snapdragon cores, so that's kind of interesting.
Complete with their own x86 translation layer called Prism, but now Valve has introduced an alternative with the new Proton 11 ARM64 build. What gives Valve a unique long-term edge in this situation is their full control over their stack. SteamOS, the Proton compatibility layer, and the FX translation layer. This tight
in case you guys don't know what the stack is basically how things are compiled. So that they have the freedom now to basically streamline it and make it more efficient. Xbox should have won the console wars. The Xbox One, yeah. The 360, I would say, and I hated the 360. Mine spent more time red ringing and getting fixed than I did actually like enjoying it, if I'm being completely honest. Because of the red ringing 360, I bought a PS3 and just stopped buying games for the 360. And not because I didn't like the original Xbox. I loved the original Xbox, but yeah, I don't know. After the 360, I never bought another Xbox console.
Integration allows gaming-specific optimizations that are much harder for a general-purpose operating system like Windows. If installing SteamOS on a Snapdragon device delivers better gaming performance, battery life, or simplicity than Windows 11 for many titles, gamers will have a very clear choice. Valve is quietly making Windows optional for the next wave of efficient mobile and portable gaming devices. And Valve's reasoning comes down to the Steam frame and future hardware.
Is that legit? Are we getting a Steam frame? Oh my god.
The Steam frame and future hardware like the Steam Deck.
I want to dead this.
2. You cannot put an x86 processor like the one in the Steam Deck into a comfortable VR headset. It's too hot, it's too heavy, and the battery wouldn't last that long. ARM is the only way forward for...
I hope so, man. I mean, like, I am very familiar with Linux. I've never gamed on Linux. I think I tried to once. I was disappointed. So I have a Windows install for, you know, when I'm streaming and stuff, just because it's easier. But I'm very familiar with Linux. I would love to see Linux be a proper competitor, because I think the main thing that keeps Linux back, because I know a lot of people, VTubers as well, that love Linux. I'm not saying Linux is bad. I have a soft spot for it, but you know, if I want a game, I need to be on a Windows client, at least at this point. So I'm hoping this strips all that away.
Wearable and handheld tech. In an interview with Japanese media, some Valve employees said, if we can own our own hardware and pursue a better gaming experience, we can offer high value without waiting for third-party companies to respond. So by...
Yeah, exactly, Rhino. That's what I heard too. That, I mean, okay, I'm very familiar with Linux, but there's a lot of really easy, I'll say, like, starter builds you can get if you want to, like, start learning Linux. Like, I think Mint was a really good one. Oh shit, what's the name of that other one? Thank you for the head pats. Mint is a oh shit, my brain just completely spaced on it. But yeah, there's a lot of easy builds that you can get that are more like X focused, aka Windows focused, so you can start learning the coding and kerneling and so forth. It's not impossible, but I would definitely think if you wanted to start learning Linux, you should definitely install it on a second partition or a second device. If you are hesitant about messing up with anything on your Windows PC, like if you're not familiar with partitioning yourself, just get a secondary device. You can get something cheap. Go to like a Goodwill, get like a clunker computer, load Ubuntu on it, the one that launches from USB, and just start fiddling, start learning. That's the best thing I would say. Yeah, I think Mint is a good entry point too, and that's why it stuck out of my head right away too.
By building Proton ARM, Valve is no longer...
I know there's some other ones. I think, is it rock candy or sugar candy? I know there was another one. So one of my friends was telling me that it's another good like entry contender, and I was like, I don't know. Mint's always worked for me.
Longer waiting for AMD or Intel to make a low-power chip that works for VR. They can now use the world-class mobile silicon from Qualcomm or even other custom ARM designs. So this is the hardware roadmap, and Proton 11 is now the software foundation that makes that hardware possible. While we are waiting for the Steam frame to actually check this all out ourselves.
Okay, so the Steam frame has been confirmed. Jeez, I'm gonna have to get a bigger studio. Especially if I want to do some like VR shit.
The community is already losing its mind. If you own an ARM-based handheld like the Odin 2 or the Retro Pocket, your device just got a massive upgrade. The developers of Rocknix have already integrated official Steam support. And
oh,
then
wow.
there's also the Nintendo Switch. Because the Switch runs on an NVIDIA Tegra ARM chip, gamers have already managed to get Proton 11 running on modded Switches.
Oh man, I wish I would have fucking known this. I got rid of my Switch like maybe a couple of months ago back because I hadn't used it. If I would have known I could have hacked it to run Linux. Oh well, the more you know, right?
Just hours after it was released. Now, before you go out and buy an ARM device, we need to talk about the catches. Proton 11 is currently in the beta branch. That means
as I would
bugs
expect, yeah.
and other potential issues. This is for the early adopters and the tinkerers who understand it's not fully ready yet. But just like every other version of Proton, there will be continuous updates to constantly improve the software. So it will really only get...
You got one with a Switch? If you got a Switch, more power to you. I loved it until I stopped playing it.
Get better from here.
Mainly because I got suckered into the I think it was like paying the $20 or it was $30 a year to get like the Nintendo Plus online to get access to the retro games. I like playing them in HD, and then the additional, I think it was like $50 to get access to more stuff. More like more games for different platforms like TurboGrafx and stuff, and I was like, cool, I'll throw all that money down. And then I just like I stopped using it after about a month, and I was like, oh geez, this is a huge waste of money.
Then there is also the problem of anti-cheats. Even though Proton can translate the game,
yeah, I don't play it much either. Oh, I don't have it anymore, so yeah, it makes sense.
Get them running, it still can't always translate kernel-level anti-cheat software like Ricochet or Vanguard. However, for 90% of single-player games and many titles, the future is...
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I mean, I don't own a Steam Deck. I've had opportunities to purchase one, but I've elected not to get one because of work reasons. Where, you know, when I'm working, I want to focus on work. But I think a lot of people who get Steam Decks primarily do it for the single player games, not necessarily for the multiplayer. I can't speak for everybody. That's kind of why I'm asking for feedback as far as like your guys' use experiences for it. I like, for me, you know, to go back to the Cyberpunk thing like Bones was talking about, like I would rather do it, get a Steam Deck and use that for you know, for like playing a long game like Cyberpunk or maybe like Tainted Grail. I've watched Ty play that a little bit. It looked pretty interesting. I'm familiar with it, of course, but you know, games like that are probably what I'd play more on the Steam Deck than an online game. So that doesn't really bother me much.
Is looking bright. So this is why Proton 11 is actually...
Also, entirely side tangent, I never understood the point of putting anti-cheat software on a single player game, but whatever. Yeah, I do use it for that and emulators. Yeah, I've heard it's really good for emulators, which is actually what really tempted me more than the Steam itself, which, you know, the Steam isn't bad, but you know what I mean.
A very big deal. We are watching Valve dismantle the final barrier to PC gaming. For decades, PC gaming meant being tied to a desk or carrying a heavy, hot laptop. The Steam Deck changed that, but it was still tied to the old x86 architecture. Proton 11 ARM is
Yeah, there's a few games that have anti-cheat for single player. It's not many. They kind of like stopped doing it, but there are still a few that have anti-cheat for single player games, which I think is just retarded. Because it's like, if I want to cheat in my single player game, then I'm gonna fucking cheat in my single player game. Especially if it's something. I mean, Hightail doesn't do this, right? Last time we played Hightail, but like in Hightail, we could give ourselves all creator mode and then go nuts with it. So I don't know.
Valve saying Steam is an ecosystem, not just a platform. Valve has now lit the fuse for the future of gaming hardware. Would you want a more battery efficient and lighter Steam Deck too? If you are interested in the future of gaming and any Valve news, don't forget to...
This is awesome. Like, this is probably a little like too tech savvy for people, but I certainly love it. Console Command Kings, yes. Especially if it's a game, to comment on that, Rhino, that you've already played like thousands and hundreds of times, and you just want to say, you know what? Let's stick around with some no clipping, or let's stick around with some God mode. Let's see how these people freak out. I remember the original Half-Life, the parts where like the soldiers would storm in after the halfway point, and they're supposed to be like instant kills just about for you if you're not prepared for them. It was fun, after I had beaten that game several times, to go back and, turn on God mode and just see them freak out as they're like kicking you back and like shooting you and throwing grenades, and you're just like, ha. But yeah. Well, emulator is easy to import in Steam Deck all the way up to PS2. Wow, that's cool. I have a pretty extensive PS2 library. All physical games, I assure you. I might stream some though. I'm thinking about it. Would you guys like to see that? Like have like a chill Friday night type of stream thing? I think that'd be fun. We play like small retro games. For anyone who's not tech savvy, hold Control Shift on. Oh no. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this was interesting. I thought it was worth talking about and watching. And it's 4 days old. I wanted to watch the day it dropped. We must be friends now. We must be. We must be. But yeah, guys. Bye-bye. I thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I will sadly have to start going. It is not due to not wanting to be here. I wish I had more times to hang out with you guys. I have to get up early, 4 a.m. work stuff. You know how it goes, sadly. But in case you guys do want to support the channel, use code MAGS Noctis. Get yourself some delicious tea. And from thedragonstreasure.com. That's pretty much the only thing I do. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. Always a pleasure to have you guys here. I really need to get through a lot more of the AI music videos. I got through like 3 or 4 of them today. I'm glad I did, but I still have more I want to punch through. And then they keep releasing more. Damn this wonderful community that keeps being so goddamn creative. But until next time, guys, try to get some sleep. We will raid out, though. And let's find who we're going to raid out to, guys. Maybe Leaflet's online. We'll go bug Leaflet. Yeah, Leaflet is online. What's she doing? She's watching, reacting to your stellar humanist idol. Okay, we'll go read into Leaflet. Okay, be good in the waiting room, kids. But no, seriously, love to have you guys here. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And let's go say hi to Leaflet. And I do have a raid emoji. Everybody spam the raid emoji.